All right. Welcome, everybody, to Agency Journeys. Your host, Gray MacKenzie from ZenPilot. This week, I have the awesome privilege of having a repeat guest on the podcast, but also someone who's had a really meaningful impact on my life over the last 5 years through his work, and that is Zeb Evans, founder and CEO of ClickUp. Zeb, congrats on 5+ years now, and welcome back to Agency Journey.
Thanks for having me back, Gray. Super excited to be here again.
I'm excited. Your apparel choices have not disappointed. If anyone's not watching this on YouTube, go check it out there. But I've got a handful of different places I want to take our conversation today, but just wanted to start a little bit with kind of on the journey side of things. We're just talking about the most fun part of the journey. But if you look back at kind of the last 5 years and had to break it into specific phases, and maybe you don't think about it this way, but I'd be curious if you do. Do you think about the journey in terms of here's phases? Obviously, we get the ClickUp evolution. Hey, we had 1.0 and then the big move to 2.0 and now 3.0 is in the works. But are there specific phases you look back on? Yeah,
it's a great question. And there certainly is. The first phase of any startup that is building something that is really for a product. So it doesn't have to just be software, but can be hardware also, it's all about product. So you've got to and this can be, I've seen this last 10 years in some companies. So there really isn't a time limit on these phases, but the first one certainly is it's 100% about, are you creating a great product? And is there some type of competitive differentiation between your product and what exists out there? And so that's that very first phase. It's before product market fit. Everybody talks a lot about product market fit. I think product market fit is that second stage, which is really just better said as, can you create a business out of the product that you built? And there are many great products that have competitive differentiation that have been unable to figure out the business side of things. And great examples of these are, now it's obvious in hindsight, social media, advertising. But at one time, that was not obvious that's how you can figure out how to create a business out of that product. So after you're able to figure out the business side of things, then it becomes a scaling challenge. It becomes, are you hiring the right people? And so I break scaling down into two pieces. So it's like scaling A would be hiring the right leadership. The people that can build, the people that can hire, the people that can scale yourself. Because especially as a founder, it really is about scaling yourself at the end of the day. You especially as you're growing to a larger company. So generally speaking, you'll be around, I would say, 50 employees at that time, 50 to 100, maybe more, maybe less, depending on if you've raised a significant amount of funds before that. I think raising funds plays into how these stages are amplified very much. But I'm always a huge proponent of raising as little money as possible until after you get to the scaling phase, because I think you make better decisions on product. And I think you make way better decisions on go-to-market, how to sell the product. If you have a bunch of money in the bank, then in some ways you kind of skip step 2 because you don't need to. You don't need the money. So you fail to figure out the business. And in some ways, you may not figure out the product at the best way that you could. So again, just recapping, it's phase 1, product. Phase 2, how do you make a business out of the product market fit. Phase 3 is broken into 2. 3A is leadership, the leadership to build and hire the teams. And then B, part of phase 3 is individual contributors, the middle management layer, really scaling out the headcount of the company. And those 3 phases are really the journey that we've been on until today. Always, though, after those and ongoing during these 3 phases, there's this operational excellence that you have to have a focus on. It matters just as much at the beginning as it does at scale. The difference is that it's very different operational excellence at the beginning versus scale. And so that's something that I'm still focused on today, is how do we make an excellent operational business out of what we have?
Yeah. You kind of answered this just as we were chatting before recording. I was going to ask you if you had a favorite one of those. Like what phase do you feel like you relate to the most? You kind of mentioned like a lot of the joy or a lot of the fun is actually at the beginning, but you're kind of too focused on surviving that it's hard to enjoy that.
Something that I've really learned in life is it's important to enjoy the journey as you're experiencing it, because always 100% of the time, you're going to get on the other side, whether that be on like a good side or a bad side, failure versus success. And you're going to regret not enjoying that part of the journey more. And so it's like that grass is greener analogy where you're on, like, let's say the third phase, and you look back and you're like, damn, that first phase of building the product was so much fun. It was a really small team. That was the best part of the journey. But if you flip positions again, and that first position, your mind is, hey, are we going to survive? I don't know if we're going to be able to eat next week. Like, we don't have enough money to pay ourselves. Is this a product anybody will actually pay for? So there's always going to be that, no matter what part of the journey you're on. And this is true for all of life. Like, this is true for family. It's true for relationships. It's true for health, fitness, whatever you want to put it at. There's always going to be a different place that your brain, that voice in your head, wants to be at. I think it's really important to control that voice in your head and just enjoy experiencing everything as you're experiencing it. There's a lot of really, really stressful things and things that cause anxiety, especially on the third level of scale, when you have a lot of employees. Those employees and their families go into your thinking as well, and those customers. We have hundreds of thousands of paying customers today. And so we really want to fulfill our promise and make all of those customers happy. So there is a lot of weight carried with that. But again, there's still a way to enjoy the journey while we're doing that. And I like to think that I've kind of mastered that at this point. Yeah.
That's a great point. Every time we go on a road trip, I tell the kids, what's the one thing we know for sure? Something will go wrong. Like, there will always be problems. Let's enjoy the good parts of this. You're kind of hitting on like the professional level of stress. You've gone from like 4 scrappy guys, building out a product early on and pivoting to, hey, you're the CEO of a startup that's valued at $4 billion and is growing incredibly rapidly. Like this journey over, like from the outside, the world looks at the person who I talked to like 4 years ago when you guys were super early on, and the person today is like 2 totally different people. What's that been like kind of on maybe more personal side? Like, how's that changed just kind of those relationships around you, friends, family, like that level of engagement?
It's a good question. And I think somebody told me early on, always don't keep your circle too big. Right? It doesn't mean like keep it so small, but don't keep it so big. And I think that's important for no matter where you're at in life. You think you can only have so many really close friends and relationships that really, really matter, and that those people that are there for you no matter what. You see this in people that win the lottery. You see this in a famous music artist that everybody comes out from the woodwork that wasn't there for you when you're going through those hard times. And so it's important to remember that, and it's also important to appreciate the people that were there for you during those hard times. At the same time, as you grow as an individual, and as I've grown as an individual, it opens up more doors to different relationships, different levels of relationships that you may not have had access to before. And so it's important to, I think, be appreciative of being able to do that, and to somewhat take advantage of having access to those relationships and learning from those people that have done things much better than I have, or much better than our company has before. So I think there's kind of 2 ways of looking at it. There's like that really personal side of relationships. And then there's that professional side of relationships that also is personal, but allows you to grow much more in that professional mindset.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want to talk about, I want to spend some time on like ClickUp 3.0 and kind of direction of the company, but maybe a couple questions before we get there. The first one would be, if you look back on the contribution of ClickUp to the overall project management space, and you may buck the project management label, like maybe we want to go work solution, work management, some of the other, like expand beyond the category. But when I look at like ClickUp's overall contribution to the larger space, there have been like pretty much every tool now offers you a lot of flexibility in how you view your underlying data or your tasks or whatever. And a lot of that, I think, stemmed from your early work. Is there something else, and that might be it, but is there anything that sticks out to you as like, hey, this is the contribution to the larger ecosystem? Like, what's the main thing that ClickUp has done to change the way PM operates today?
I think there's a couple of things. One of them you touched on is customization and flexibility. When we started, that was one of the the primary reasons that I built ClickUp as an internal tool at first. It was literally just to be able to switch between list and board. And that was the primary function. That was the differentiator that we were using ourselves. Then it evolved to total customization and flexibility. Another example early on was multiple assignees. I don't know why platforms were so opinionated about being able to use these or not, but you needed, like, why can't a user choose? So I took that principle and we applied that to everything inside of ClickUp to enable flexibility, to enable customization. We always thought of a 2-person team and we thought of a 2,000-person team. And if we solve for those, it did naturally solve everything in between. And now we think about even a little bit even larger than that. So I think that was one contribution that we made for sure is that flexibility and that customization. I think the other thing is viewing your work, which to some extent ties to flexibility and customization. But again, that was the thing that we invented, was being able to switch between views. And it sounds like table stakes today because now everybody does have this. But at the time, you weren't able to switch between a list view and a board view and a calendar view and a timeline view. And that was what made us really special with that ClickUp V1 and then going into V2, where it wasn't just switching explicitly, it was also creating additional views on top of that singular view of work. I think the third thing, though, is when we started, I can't tell you how many times people told us that this was stupid. This philosophy around product isn't going to work. You can't do more than one thing well, and that has been proven over and over and over again. And we always just stuck with that vision of being able to do multiple things well over time. We weren't naive enough to think that immediately we could just do everything well, and we still don't today. But over time, you can do more than one thing well. And that's where this category actually headed. And it took a few years. It was probably three and a half years into the journey when that started really shifting. But it certainly shifted. And I think it's very obvious now that the other players in this category are trying to do more than one thing well also. We do have still a head start on them, but it's becoming competitive in that doing multiple things well, putting all of your work in one place. And just touching on 3.0, I think it gives us that extra couple years of differentiation where it will change the category again. Yeah.
Let's talk about that. How do you sum up ClickUp 3.0?
Yeah, look, the first thing is quality, and quality early on. For people that use our early versions of ClickUp, it's changed a lot, and over time, we've learned a lot of new principles. We've all learned new methodologies, new ways of hiring, new ways of scaling and engineering. And I think the way to look at it is that we're taking all of the best principles and lessons that we learned from the past 5 years, and we're rewriting a lot of our product in order to have that best-in-class principles of product quality. And product quality is broken down for us into reliability. Does it work when you want it to work? It's performance. Is it fast? And it's product quality. It's user experience quality. Is it easy to use? Does it make sense? Is it consistent? Is it beautiful? Are the little details met? And that's the really first and foremost and most important thing about 3.0 is that quality of product experience. And as we've done so many different things, we have basically 15 products inside of a product. It's important for us to take that breather and really get the house in order and make sure that the foundation is there for the future. So once we do this once, we don't have to do it again. And we can continue building floors on top of this foundation. But it was important to some extent for us to rewrite the foundation of the platform. And that's what's taken the most time. I mean, we've been working on this for almost a year now. And a lot of it is done and or close to being complete. And many of these things we're going to release just rolling releases. It's not going to be, hey, I need to switch to 3.0 because so many of these things are really crucial in people's workflows for performance and reliability that we'll just release them immediately over the next few months. The product behind 3.0 though is outside of the major design overhaul, which will not feel, it's not going to feel unfamiliar to people. It's not if people went from 1.0 to 2.0 of ClickUp, there was a very different experience. It was a totally different product to some extent, different user experience, different everything. It's not going to feel unfamiliar. I think it's just going to feel much more clean, much more consistent, much more connected. I think a lot of the dots in ClickUp don't connect today. We built a lot, but maybe we built the MVP or we built the V1 and we didn't connect it to the rest of the platform. So every feature, every product will feel much more connected. But the third thing, and this is the thing that will be last in the 3.0 release, the 3.0 journey, is communication, and to some extent collaboration also. I think that we know based on data that the most commonly used page in ClickUp, believe it or not, is the notifications page. That's where a lot of people live out of, is answering notifications. Also combined with the most inefficient way of using ClickUp is email notifications. It's so inefficient in the way that people use email notifications, not just with ClickUp, with every product. And so what we're trying to do is really rethink how communication works inside of software products. I think the other problem I really want to solve is Slack is the most distracting thing in the world for me. And I literally have to turn all Slack notifications off. And still, I'm so OCD where I go in there and every 5 minutes I'm checking my notifications and then marking them unread and then setting reminders. And I think asynchronous communication needs to change, especially for the future of work and the way that we are working now today with largely remote and largely hybrid work. And this is an evolution towards that. And so I'm real. That's the piece that I'm most excited about, the third version of the platform, along with people management. I think that it's really hard to know what people are working on today and to make sure that people are working on the right thing and to enable the individual to know what is most important. Individuals, they have to ask, hey, what is the most important? What should I work on next? And managers at the manager level it's a manual process to go figure that out. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there to attach these things to initiatives and goals and to be able to measure productivity inside of a company. So that part is really important to us on 3.0 also.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you guys internally, is there a standard framework for kind of managing goal, whether it's the OKR framework or kind of something custom around ClickUp goals feature? Do you guys have a standard across the team methodology?
We actually use a list inside of ClickUp that has our goals features, our actual OKRs there. Our goals product will get a total revamp along with 3.0, but it'll probably be like 3.1, 3.2 a few months after we release this. But we are working on that now. And if people have feedback for that, send it to me, Zeb at ClickUp.com, because that is one of the things that I think is I don't think goals are something that any product has solved really well, to make it fun and not too key result focused, where it's just all about updating a metric and it's all about figuring out some arbitrary metric. I think that's where you get into trouble with goals. It is really strict key result methodology where every single thing has to have a number. At the end of the day, it's really hard to put a number on things, and most of the time teams are just making it up. And I think that can hinder growth and it can hinder productivity, because you may set your bar too low, but you also may set it way too high and you over focus on that metric rather than focusing on building the best thing possible.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Tied into 3.0, I mentioned this kind of in categories right now. Like, do you put the easy answer is probably like, I don't want to put ClickUp in a bucket, but if you had to describe the bucket that ClickUp's in right now, do you call it work management? Do you call it, how do you think about that internally?
We see 3.0 as more of a hub, a platform. There's a lot that has been going on in the background this past year. Also, we've always said one app to replace them all, and it's great. It's great marketing. Right? It attacks every single persona that you could think of. I mean, teenagers are like, what the hell do they mean? Are they replacing my Instagram and my iMessage? Or, what could that possibly mean? And that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to strike curiosity and meant for people to talk about it, to Google it. It's brand marketing. What we really always thought, though, was really one app to replace all of your productivity software at work, which usually was broken down into several different pieces. But at the end of the day, we know we've never been naive enough to think that we can replace all of your software or even all of every company's work productivity software. It is about connecting at the end of the day. I think there's a lot of sources of record what we're trying to build is a source of truth, like the source of command center, where you go and all of your work and all of your connected products and connected applications are there and presented to you in a way that you know what you need to do for that day. So whether it's a Figma file or Google Drive or Salesforce or whatever other product that you use for your particular role, that must live and breathe inside of ClickUp. And you should be able to update those things and work on them and organize them and plan your day. And you should be able to search all of those products from one place. I think the really cool thing that we've been working on is relationships, and meaning you can draw a relationship between a ClickUp task and a Salesforce deal, or a ClickUp task and a Google Drive file. So you don't have to ask people anymore, hey, where is that ticket? Where is that file? Where is that customer? It all lives in one place. And I think that's a huge advantage to saving people time.
Yeah. We're seeing that even in like the, obviously more of the HubSpot partnership is being announced right now, and playing around with what's like, that's a huge step forward for us in terms of a ton of automations that we're currently setting up for dozens of agencies. Using third-party tooling is now becoming a lot easier just to do natively. So I'm excited to see that continue to happen too. As you guys have grown, the ecosystem around ClickUp has also grown a lot. You've got obviously firms like what we're doing. You know, like we built an entire business around, hey, we're gonna standardize in a vertical that we know well, but we're going to build on top of ClickUp because we think that's the best project management tool for most agencies most of the time. Obviously, we want to maximize our market share, but we also want to be experts in one tool. So you get service providers on top of it. You've got consultants, you've got content creators, you've got people now who are building some cool like kind of tech on top of ClickUp. We've got this utilization and profitability plugin that we kind of put in. That's only client facing, but you've got other folks who've built little bits of tooling that sit on top of ClickUp and can be, you know, whether it's an extension or something else that's out there. Is there anything that you've seen, or on the flip side, anything that is like, hey, somebody should build this? We don't want to tackle this right now, but somebody should build this tooling on top of it. Anything that you've seen that's like the most exciting ClickUp ecosystem development to you?
I've started the journey of really looking deeply into how can we create the best app developer platform on top of ClickUp. Yeah. And I think there's examples of companies that have done this well. And what we're trying to do right now actually is emulate how other apps have been created in other app developer platforms, like let's call it around Slack or Microsoft Teams. If we can do this right, then it means that people can copy and paste their applications that they've already built for another platform inside of ClickUp, and then it works immediately. Because the biggest hurdle to developer platforms is developing the products, developing the applications on there. It can take a really, really, really long time to do that. And customers don't see value out of it immediately. But if we can make them work as if they already worked inside of another product, then it gives us a couple years of leapfrogging. And that's what I've been focused on, is how do we do that? And how do we also open up the front end of our product so that people can build really cool applications on top of them. So yeah, I mean, look, there's a variety of examples there, but I think one thing that I've really indexed heavily on is widgets, things that can go inside of tasks and go inside of docs and go inside of anywhere inside of the product. And so what we've been working on recently is putting widgets inside of docs and / commands. So you can create a bar chart, you can create a graph really easily, no matter where you're at inside of the product. What that opens up the doors to is people could put any types of widgets in there. It doesn't have to just be a graph. It could be a list of something from outside of ClickUp. It could be a graph from data using outside of ClickUp, data used from Salesforce, for example, or from HubSpot. It could be buttons. I think buttons are a really cool opportunity for us, where you can click a button and it performs an action or performs a workflow inside or outside of ClickUp. And then, of course, there's a variety of just features that people have requested that we'll never be able to build, that I think having a developer platform allows customers to build those either themselves or along with the community or partners like yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to ask one more question, and then I've got some audience sourced goofy questions here that I'm going to wrap up with, but this is around the growth side. And last time that you were on, we talked a little bit about what's working and what's worked for ClickUp to grow so rapidly. Had Melissa Rosenthal on the podcast to talk about, what are you guys doing with out of home and some of the rest of the creative that's working really well for ClickUp. But is there, in terms of like untapped or not yet optimized growth channels, is there a channel that you're looking at expanding on? Like partners could be a larger channel. There's obviously a consultants network right now, and there's partner work, but there's a million different channels out there. Is there one to you that's like, oh man, I'd love to build on this or get into this channel?
I think community in general is the one that we pioneered early on, and community is definitely, it's the user side of community, but it's all in the evangelists, advocates, ambassadors, whatever you want to call it, that side. And it's also the partnership side, like that ecosystem community side was something that we were really great at early on. And to be honest, I think we kind of dropped the ball this past year or so. And that's what I've been working on picking up the past couple of months, is putting the right people in the right places and giving freedom and giving more autonomy to those communities to build on their own and to grow on their own. We ourselves, we do not have plans we're not going to be able to scale our internal services department as fast as we need to. And we knew that was going to happen. And so we've got to lean on the community and partners. And I think that there's a lot more that we can do there to help our community, help the ecosystem, help businesses like yours really grow and benefit from the growth of ClickUp for now and for the future also. So I think that's really important and top of mind for me right now. As far as marketing channels go, there's only when we talk about paid marketing is very obvious around the channels that you can do. What's not obvious is the efficiency that can be gained from those channels. And like to give you an idea is we're like 70% more efficient than we were just 6 months ago on overall paid acquisition. Usually at scale, efficiency goes down. But we've really been able to dig into the data and figure out how can we drive more efficiency through paid marketing. And it's simple things as getting better ads, getting better content, and it's more complex on the complex side of data science. It's who are we actually targeting and why, and what are they doing? Is it, and what type of conversions are we having? And how many people are they inviting to the platform after this? And really zoning in on those kind of N+1 users, where you can acquire a customer and they'll invite other customers and they'll tell other people about us. And then finally, a lot of influencers are really, really important for us also. And so that goes to the small level, the ambassador side, but also to the large side, like these business influencers or productivity influencers, or even people that are kind of motivational speakers for businesses that can really engage their community. And I think there's still a lot of greenfield opportunity in productivity as a whole for customers that are using, or prospective customers that are using spreadsheets still to get work done. They're using just notes. They're using just Google Docs. And there's so much opportunity there to help them save time, help them become more efficient. And so those three things are really, I think that's our opportunity for this next year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, there you go. We got bonuses here. I asked for one, we got three. That's awesome. I've got a couple fun ones here. Do you have a favorite nickname?
I used to be a DJ, and my DJ name was DJ Curfew because I was DJing one time. I had a small, it was just myself, a DJ company in North Carolina during high school where I would do Sweet 16s, and I actually DJed at a local radio station also. And I got the name DJ Curfew because I had to be home by midnight, and I would have to pack up, a Sweet 16 or a birthday party or whatever it may be at like 11 o'clock in order to get home. So friends still call me Curfew, and I'll always appreciate that.
That's awesome, which is also ironic given your sleeping habits. Do you have a favorite / guilty pleasure snack?
Ooh, McDonald's French fries.
Wow. Okay.
McDonald's French fries. Yeah, I probably do it like once a month. I actually stopped and had them yesterday, and that's the thing that McDonald's has the best French fries in the world.
That's awesome. Where do you buy your clothes?
A variety of places. I think, I think the issue that I've gotten into now is it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy is I have to wear crazier and crazier shirts and colors, because when I don't, then people give me shit for it. And they're like, you're not wearing a Zeb shirt. You're not wearing a Zeb outfit. So I've a lot of online places. Honestly, Google Shopping is really helpful in image search. You can look for what's similar to another shirt, and then you just get a ton of hits on that stuff. If you even just search colorful shirts or colorful button down or colorful attire in Amazon, like lots of things come up, and that's kind of what I look for.
Have you had anyone come to a meeting yet trying to wear a Zeb shirt, but they clearly don't normally wear a Zeb shirt?
For sure. That happens a lot internally and externally, but I greatly appreciate it when it happens.
That's awesome. What makes someone a great office guest?
In the sense of like employees or people that are coming?
No. An external guest coming to ClickUp HQ.
We get a lot of honestly, I think that when people come to the office and they actually just walk around the office, that's a great guest. We have a lot of guests that just come just for one particular thing. But if you go around and talk to people and talk, like everybody at ClickUp is very friendly and very open and excited to talk to people. We really want to hear what people are feeling, and we want to feel that empathy for customers and for prospective employees and business partners, whatever that may be. So I think that's a successful person. It's somebody that comes and hangs out rather than just comes for their 30-minute meeting.
And that is out. Yeah, makes sense. Last question is one that's related back to 3.0, which is, this came from a couple different people asked me versions of this, but all of them were old time, like long-term ClickUp users. Will there be an upgrade? Like I actually have to opt in. You mentioned parts of 3.0 were just going to be rolled out. Will there be like an opt-in to a 3.0 platform, or is it just a seamless upgrade in the current app?
It's a great question. The majority of quality improvements will be just automatically happen for everybody. So what that means is performance and reliability. Those two things are just going to happen automatically. When we have a big user experience change, along with some new features like I'm talking about on the communication side, that will happen as a manual change. And so for people that weren't here for 1.0 or 2.0, you opted in. You could say, hey, I want to switch my workspace. It was by workspace, switch it to 2.0. You could switch, and then you could switch back. You could switch back to 1.0 also. And so I want to preserve that. I think that worked out really well for us. It's not, at the end of the day, there's a lot of change management involved with changing user experience. And again, we're not doing the same thing from 1 to 2 where it feels like an entirely different product. It will still be 3.0 will be very, very familiar to everybody. You'll know how to use it. I think in many ways, you'll know how to use it better and easier. It will feel cleaner. It will feel more consistent. It will feel more connected. And so I think that those things will really benefit a lot of users immediately. And I think most people will enjoy switching and really see that benefit. But at the same time, we want to allow people to switch back. So the first phase of 3.0, which is this year, which is primarily around quality and some other things like universal search and making our search just incredible. That stuff will happen for everybody as it's ready. And then early next year, when we have more of that second phase and third phase of 3.0, those things will be opt-in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Zeb, this has been really fun. You've been generous with your time. I know we're tight on time here, but I appreciate you coming on and being willing to share here today. So thanks for making another stop on the Agency Journey podcast.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.